Over the last couple of years, the one consistent factor in the men's division of U.S. Gymnastics has been this young man, Lance Ringnald, a member of our '88 Olympic team, and when he went to Seoul, he was the youngest member of our '88 men's team. He was 18 years old, and many said that over the last 2 years, he hasn't been able to spend enough time in the gym because he's been on the international circuit. We spoke with Lance Ringnald about that very subject.
All my competitions were international, and they were very high-pressured competitions, and that wears on you. And you're thinking back, yeah, the guys back in the States, you know, while I'm competing out of the country, they're getting better now, and they're working things I should be working. And that gets annoying. You know, you don't want to let that happen for too long.
Lance Ringnald is one of the few contenders in the competition that does not represent a university.
That's right. He is a full-time gymnast. The other athletes in this competition, they're studying, going to school, and competing for their respective colleges.
Fourth apparatus for Lance Ringnald, the high bar.
Here's his major skill, a Kovacs way in the air. Wow, that was excellent. This is one of Lance's strongest events. He actually has a chance to be a medalist in the Olympic Games on this event. So dynamic. Here's his dismount. A double twisting, double layout. Oh, and a perfect landing.
Lance Ringnald with an outstanding effort. Should be moving up after that kind of performance.
Boy, this was just fabulous. Let's look at this skill. Way in the air, 2 flips over the bar, and he grabs it. Remember, folks, that bar is 100% solid steel.
And Lance Ringnald just bent it like it was a rubber band or a toothpick in his hand. A 9.85, an outstanding score.
Yeah, that will probably move Lance up. But remember, Trent had a 9.9 on this exact event a few moments earlier.
So we have now completed 4 rotations, and we have a new leader. John Roethlisberger has overtaken Chris Waller with Dimas in the 3rd spot. Ringnald has moved up to 4th, and for the first time in the top 5, another UCLA Bruin, Scott Keswick. We'll be right back to Denver. I'm Joel Myers alongside Tim Daggett, and there is our current leader after 4 rotations, John Roethlisberger from the University of Minnesota. There's a great deal of gymnastic tradition in the Roethlisberger family. John is coached at the Golden Gophers program by his father, Fred, who was here performing for the United States at the '68 Summer Games. Fred was a 2-time Olympian for the United States, and John's sister Marie performed for the U.S. team at the '84 Summer Games in Los Angeles. With that great tradition, we asked John if there was some added pressure.
Personally, I want to do well because they did well, but they themselves don't put pressure on me to do well at all. I mean, they could care less whether I was a football player or a baseball player or a gymnast. But you know, they support me a lot and encourage me. But as far as pressure from them, I don't get any other pressure.
Ready for the start of his 5th rotation, John Roethlisberger with maybe his strongest area, the floor exercise.
That's right, Joel, but he really isn't a flashy guy on this event. But once again, he is definitely consistent. A beautiful full-in back out to a perfect landing. What we'll be looking for is skills just like that, acrobatic tumbling elements. He'll also show us a 1-leg or a 1-arm balance position.
The one thing I like about John in the floor exercise, Tim, so many of the gymnasts rush themselves. He always seems composed.
You know, and that's really a true trait of a champion. You couldn't even imagine that this kid is only 19 years old. That usually takes years to perfect.
And Tim, even though this is the optional portion of the program, we are seeing compulsory skills included in the routine.
That he must show us flexibility, strength, and also balance, which he's doing right now with a Y scale. You know, up to this point, John really hasn't done a dramatic routine. It's been very clean, but nothing too difficult. His dismount. Oh, it's a full-in back out. Great dismount.
So up until that point, Tim, it had been a fairly basic routine until the final tumbling pass.
That's right, and this changes the whole picture of the story. Let's watch this. He'll do a full twist on the first part of this somersault here. Most people are just doing a double back, but he does a full-in back out at the end of a routine. This is so hard. And he lands beautifully.
That degree of difficulty could prove to be the difference for Roethlisberger on the floor exercise, and it's a 9-7.
Yeah, that 9-7 is an excellent score for the floor exercise.
Chris Waller now on an apparatus that has been a problem for him in the past.
I've seen him many times not have enough rotation to put his feet on the ground. Whoa, and it's an excellent vault. Beautiful landing for Chris Waller. You can see he's probably more pleased with this than any other event that he's done this far. Now, what makes this vault so difficult is his body is completely stretched or extended throughout the entire phase of the vault. Very difficult skill.
So Chris Waller with a 9-6, currently in second after 4 rotations. And should stay right there with that 9-6 on the vault as Trent Dimas gets ready for an area that has not been one of his strongest over the last 12 months, the floor exercise.
Trent is obviously going through his routine in his head prior to the competition. Many athletes use visualization to help themselves relax and prepare for the event.
At 5 feet 9 inches and 150 pounds, Dimas is one of the tallest.
Yeah, and that height causes some problem with the acrobatic movement, but it also makes him look very nice in the air, as you saw right there on that 1 3/4 laid out somersault.
With some of the gymnasts, especially on the floor exercise, and they don't have the strongest legs, do they try to stay away from landing on their feet at times?
Well, that is exactly what Trent has chosen to do. He doesn't have the legs to do a full in, full out on floor or a double layout. So he picks something where his body looks very elegant, very nice in the tumbling pass.
Trent is a former junior national champion.
This actually is a very easy exercise. But once again, look at only 19 years old, and boy, this kid is composed.
Trent won the recent individual meet between the U.S. and the East Germans, beating Silvio Kroll, their outstanding gymnast, and he said he was surprised that he won it, but probably felt he won it because he was so loose going in.
Here's a double back dismount, and nowhere near as difficult as John Roethlisberger, but didn't give too many tenths away. You know, he seems to be rubbing his neck a little bit. I think what he did is he hit his head on his first tumbling pass, where he's actually rolling out and coming right down on his head.
Right now, though, he's looking for a big score to try to move up in the standings after his floor exercise. And he gets a 9.55. Well, that won't move him very far up. He'll try to hold his position.
Yeah, that's not a bad score for floor exercise, but if you want to be the champion, it's certainly not going to be enough.
Only 1 rotation remains now as Waller tries to overtake Roethlisberger. Dimas holding down the 3rd position with Ringnald in 4th, Keswick in 5th.